I got some interesting news you might have missed,
Ooh,
Mike.
I
Here's
love
the headline
this.
for you. It's from Marketing Dive. Media usage poised to dip in 2025. Media usage across both digital and traditional channels increased 2.4% globally in 2024 for an average of 57.2 hours a week, according to recent research by PQ Media. This increase was largely due to major televised events such as the Summer Olympics. However, the momentum isn't likely to continue, with growth expected to decline 0.3% in 2025, the first drop since 2009.
Woo.
Here's a quote for you. Quote, the decline in 2025 is an indication that the gains in digital media are no longer compensating for the declines in traditional media use. In the last 40 years, we saw a plethora of new media platforms and channels that have driven media usage up substantially, said Leo Kivajarv, Executive Vice President and Director of Research at PQ Media.
That is kind of disconcerting on a few levels.
Mm-hmm.
First, I want to direct our listeners to 2009. That might not jump out at you as a remarkable year, but I'd like to remind everybody what happened in the second half of 2008.
Yeah, there was a little bit of an economic collapse,
Just
if I remember
a little
correctly.
bit of an economic collapse. So that explains why media spending went down in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
This is, like I said, not the best news I've ever heard.
No.
So, okay, digital has been picking up slack for traditional media for over a decade, well over a decade. So that is slowing down. Are there any other symptoms? Are there any other kind of bellwethers that we're seeing from this?
Yeah, it's funny you ask, Mike. There is a bigger trend at play here. So, again, this is a quote from Kivajarv. Quote, the annual Consumer Electronics Show hasn't introduced any mind-blowing new technologies in years, like the smartphone in the 2000s, early 2010s, that will drive media consumption up substantially into the 2030s. That's why media consumption patterns have peaked.
That media consumption patterns have peaked.
That's wild. Yeah.
That is wild. And kind of reminds me, if you read, besides the asteroid that came and killed the dinosaurs, extinction level events happen pretty gradually.
Mm-hmm.
And jeepers creepers, that just gives me a little bit of a chill that, okay, so new media isn't doing the lifting for you.
Yeah.
There's not a new screen on the horizon that's going to save us. We saw, we had the virtual reality conversation. That's not ready for prime time.
Mm-hmm.
Augmented reality is fun, but it's not an entire new dimension.
Right.
Marketers can't wait on the next technological advance and twiddle their thumb.
Yeah, it seems like there's not one coming, according to Kivajarv. And, it makes me think about, okay, so how do you reinvent the playbook? What do you go back to? And maybe it's going back to the roots, publicity stunts, in-person activations, experiential stuff, getting away from this, the worrying so much. Not that media is not something that needs to be part of the strategy. Of course it needs to be, but I think that, marketing is everywhere and nowhere all at once, right? And that's especially true in digital channels, on TV, on social media. There's a little bit of marketing, ad blindness going on. So how do you cut through that? And to me, it's in-person activation. I'm reminded, Mike, of, our offices here at the ANA. They're pretty close to Grand Central Station.
Yep.
And a few months back, Severance, which I'm sure if you're listening to the show, you're aware of the show Severance, did this whole activation where they set up the Severance set in Grand Central Station and had the actors come in and basically play like they were on the show for a bit. And, they did that for, I think it was 48 hours or so, different actors cycling in and out. That's the type of stuff that I think you're going to need to see brands do in order to sort of counteract the diminishing returns in media.
Yeah, and the beauty of experiential, a lot of people think of it through that Severance, the PR stunt, awareness, attention grabbing thing, but IRL works up and down the funnel.
Yeah.
Actually, our guest next week, Sherry Graziano, is the head of experience and marketing for Truist. And if you've ever had a chance to go down to Truist Park in Atlanta, that is a masterclass in how you carefully and thoughtfully craft an immersive brand experience when you walk around that park. It's not intrusive, it's welcoming, it's
Yeah.
informative. You talk about moving down the consideration and, preference journey. That is all fantastic. And I'm reminded of Corey Elliott, a fantastic
Yes. Yes.
this isn't just for the Fortune 500. Like small to medium business owners can get a lot from creating an event. You're welcoming people into your experience, and you're getting that information that people might be more willing to share with you than a landing page after they've shaken your hand and had a conversation. So everybody can get into the experiential act.
Yeah, well said, Mike. I would say, if you're a listener who's hearing this and it's alarming to you, and it should be, it's alarming to me,
Yeah.
for sure. The screen is not going to save you. It's not going to be the thing that you can keep pushing that button and coming back to anymore. It's plateauing, and that may require a return to the marketing roots. Get back into the beginning of the playbook and getting attention in ways that are outside of the digital and the traditional channels, and more of that in real life type stuff. Great job previewing next week's episode, by the way.
I try.